Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Muhammad Nazmi bin Muhammad Rudi.
My name is Ras Amira binti Rosli.
My name is Muhammad Idham bin Muhammad Amir.
And before we start our presentation, we would like to thanks to our supervisor, Chairman Hakim bin Mano, for his guidance for this project. Moving on to our presentation, we are going to present a review on the compaction test of soil clay stabilized with TX85 and SH85. For the background of study, there are three types of soil, which is sand, silt, and clay. And there are different types of soil that have difference in strength, durability, and permeability. By using technology, it is the best economic way to improve the strength, durability, and permeability of the soil. And there are two types of soil stabilizer, which are traditional and non-traditional. For examples, for the traditional, there are cement, lime, and fly ash, while for the non-traditional, there are enzymes, liquid polymers, and resin. For our problem statement, the soil problem in Malaysia is one of the many issues that is related to soft soils. One in Sarawak, there are 72% coverage of soft soils for the construction of roads and buildings, and it has become a barrier as an engineer for soft ground that are construction wise, quality, and also guaranteed in terms of safety. A solution is needed as an act of overcoming the problem of soft soil as best as possible, as it is a major part, especially in terms of construction industry. And there are four objectives for this paper review. And first, review the method used to obtain the maximum value of dry density and the optimum moisture content. Secondly, review the TX85 and SH85 as stabilizer. Third, review the method used for soil stabilization, and lastly, review shear strength properties of clay soil.
Hi, my name is Ras Amira binti Rosli, and I will explain about Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, which are methodology and results. For methodology, we use the method of researching and finding that will be used as a guideline to carry our study. The following explanation will be considering the steps involved to ensure this case of study has information and data needed to reach the objective. The first one is guideline use, resources needed, systematic review paper, flow diagram, and data analytic strategy. The following figure is flow of thematic analysis. The first one is familiarize yourself with your data, assign preliminary codes to your data in order to describe the content, search for patterns or themes in your codes across the different interviews, review themes, define and name themes, and then produce your report. For a systematic review paper, there are 4 phases involved in this part, which are identification, screening, eligibility, and included. Each of phases shows the flow to determine reference from resources search. For identification, in this part, the number of all records were determined and additional records added from the resources. For database, we use ScienceDirect and Scopus. The keywords used for ScienceDirect is TX85 and SH85 and soil stabilization. For Scopus, we use optimum moisture content or OMC and dry density and Optane or CAT. This is the database and keywords used in each resources. For screening, this part records or reference that has been obtained will be analysis and screening. All the irrelevant and duplicate recorded will be removed. For eligibility, in this space, the selected articles will be reviewed and any articles that do not meet the criteria will be excluded. for included. The records has been selected, are organized, and each record will be explained about their review. This is the systematic literature review flow diagram. Records identified through corpus searching is 28,787. Additional records identified through other sources, which is Science Direct, is 5 articles. Records after duplicates removed is 3 articles. Record screen is 28,094 articles. Full text articles assessed for eligibility is 44 articles. Full text articles excluded with reason is 2, and studies included in qualitative synthesis is 42 articles. So this is the example from our 42 articles. In our finding, the article detail contain title, author and year, purpose of study, type of research methodology or data collection, and result of study.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Idham bin Muhammad Damir. I will now proceed this presentation with results, which is the chapter 4. As you can see here, this is the table. So actually we have accumulated all of the table reviews into one. We have merged it into one. As you can see, there are 4 columns following after the author. The first one is maximum value of dry density, followed by stabilizing agent used, followed by method for soil stabilization, and the last one is properties of clay. Each one column represents one objective that we have prepared earlier. So now that we've got that clear, we will now move on to the first objective. So the first objective, there are 27 out of 42 articles contain information about OMC, but we have assigned only 11 of those to be used to write about these results. So the findings are how OMC graph is plotted. So it can be plotted by doing a graph of dry density value against water content percentage. And how to differ other samples to each other? Well, of course, samples, they have different percentage if mixed with additive substances, but the graph can be overlaid upon each other, and all the values can be observed from then. And the way you can obtain maximum dry density value is through the graph, and they exist in units of kilonewton per meter cube and also GCC, but most commonly used kilonewton per meter cube. We will now proceed to the second objective, and that is to review the probe stabilizer of TX85 and XH85. So for this objective, we have only obtained 4 articles, and that is due to having limited resources regarding these two stabilizing agents, and we needed to go to Science Direct exclusively to get these articles. And the findings are TX85 is being used as stabilizer in lateritic soil. Additives improve the compressive strength of lateritic soil significantly, and based on 2 other articles used as stabilizing agent in cement. Well, regarding SH85, one article studies the stress strain behavior of marine clay treated with 12% of SH85 with different curing periods. The confining pressures and another examines the effectiveness of SH85 as new calcium-based powder additive, which is prepared from biomass silica for stabilization of a tropical residue laterite soil. Now we'll proceed to objective number 3. So there are 11 articles assigned specifically for this objective, and the findings are there are different terms used for stabilization. Well, they substituted the word stabilization with base, amendment, and treatment. Well, all in all, they all mean the same thing. The purpose of stabilization is of course to improve the properties of soil, and the way it is done is different set of samples are done. Different percentage of additive substances are added. Well, if you have more than one, then you need different pairs of percentage of those different additive substances. Upon curing, if included, will undergo tests. So we have counted 7 UCS tests from all those articles, all those 11 articles. 3 CBR tests done, 4 SEM tests done, 3 compaction tests done, and 2 XRD tests done. And there are other cumulative different tests named as other 16. Well, those 16 are 16 different tests, but they are accumulated into one and named as others. Now we'll move on to the fourth objective, which is the last one, which is to review the shear strength properties of clay soil. So from the findings, different types of tests, which are triaxial test, shear test, standard Proctor compaction test, and lastly unconfined compression test. Well, we will get into details of triaxial test. It is actually tested out using a TSZ1 full automatic strain control triaxial test apparatus produced by Nanjing Soil Instrument. It has different confining pressures, and the maximum was 500 kilopascal. The shear rate was 0.8 mm per minute, and the test ended once the shear strain reached 16%. So the influence of reinforcement methods and contents of waste polyester fiber or waste polyester fabric block on the deformation resistance and shear characteristics of the reinforced clay was studied by carrying out 21 different groups of triaxial tests. The change of parameter could reflect the strain hardening degree of the sample, and 6 articles were mentioned for direct shear strength. The differences between each of the articles is the type of stabilizer used for the test and the combination of stabilizers. But all in all, it all brings to one conclusion, is they all bring similar results. That is all for my part. I will now pass on this presentation to Muhammad Azmi to conclude this presentation. Thank you very much.
For the conclusion, there are 4 conclusions based on 4 objectives that we have listed before. For the first conclusion, related to the first objective, in the records that have been determined, majority of authors obtain the maximum value of dry density through the dry density against water content graph, and that can be obtained through standard Proctor compaction test. And from this objective, has to be obtained on a deeper depth upon how MDD and OMC can be obtained to clear out any doubts and on methods used to obtain this data. For the second conclusion, there are very limited information regarding for this chemical, which are TX85 and SH85. Based on our review, by using the proper stabilizer, it has enhanced its unconfined compressive strength characteristic. The quick reactions of the selected stabilizers with laterite soil are very advantageous and cost effective, especially for geotechnical engineering projects that need fast completion. For conclusion for the third objective, there are many ways found from the records on how to stabilize clay soil that can be generally parted in 2 ways, which is chemical and mechanical. On a majority note, chemical stabilization aids in using a variation of chemical substances along with used and mixtures and recycled substances. Different percentage of additives are used and tested after curing to see change in properties of soil. Last but not least, conclusion for the fourth objective. Several types of tests can be used to review the shear strength properties of clay soil. Based on the paper review, UCS is the most common test, followed by standard Proctor test, shear test, and lastly triaxial test. All of the methods that have been used in the journal and article are proven to determine the shear strength properties of soil. And for the recommendation, Proba's TX85 soil stabilizer and strengthener is one of the various products available for stabilizing soil rods. if such floors do not meet the requirements for sealing. Besides that, Robust SH85 soil hardener is a biotechnological breakthrough generated from waste biomass silica from artificial lateral. That's all for our presentation. Thank you.